Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning into today's post show. My name is Josh. I'm one of the pastors here on staff, and I am joined by Matt, Andy, and Elizabeth. These are three amazing people that do so much here around Connections. I'm so glad to be able to be talking to you guys this morning. I don't know what you guys are laughing about.
Me saying hello. I don't know what happened. Sorry.
This is the laughing crew.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
So, how was everybody's week?
It's great.
Great, yeah.
Really good, really tiring, but really good.
Really tiring.
That's good.
Yeah.
I'm glad.
Good tiring.
Good. Oh, good tiring. That's
Yeah.
that's good. That's better than bad tiring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How was
Joy-
your week, Josh?
It was good. You got to enjoy the warm weather.
Yeah.
Now it's
Sports
cold.
Sports are kind of in full swing.
Yeah,
so
sports are in full swing. I'm excited about that.
my week's busy now. After
Fortunately,
work.
had some sickness going through my house, so I wasn't able to go to any of the sports things. But hopefully this week I will be able to go to the sports things because I love track. I love watching all those things. So I'm excited for it.
Yeah, there was
so.
a kid that threw shot put 50 feet.
Yeah, that's crazy.
The way he just heaved it, I was like,
What was the
That's
discus
wild.
discus was like
discus
150.
was 150 something, and
That's-
it
It
just
was
sank.
You know,
Crazy.
I feel like the discus doesn't surprise me as much as the shot put one does
It
because
was
those things
crazy.
are heavy. Like
12 pounds.
What's
Yeah.
a normal shot put throw?
12
Like
pounds.
two.
Normal throw.
Yeah.
I don't know
Distance
if
of-
I were to throw
2
a
feet.
shot put right
Some
now,
of the big, the
maybe
ones that we saw were like in the high
Okay.
30s and 40s,
I
and then
don't
this
even-
kid comes up and just goes.
I don't even know if I would get 30 feet, honestly, with the shot put right now.
I don't know if I would anymore either.
I
don't
could
think I
do
would.
700.
700.
700 centimeters?
Nano inches.
What is a nano?
I don't know. I just made it up. Anyway,
Probably really tiny. I had to imagine really tiny.
I'm so strong, Andy.
I know
can
you
throw
are.
it so
No one's
far.
questioning
you can throw it over that mountain.
Alrighty, we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna We're gonna hop into our first question.
I like
Oh
to
my
happen to
gosh.
things too.
We're gonna hop into our first question because Matt and Elizabeth they have to take off and go play some instruments.
Go rock our socks off.
Here in just a little bit. So we're gonna go ahead and hop right into our first question. What stood out to you in today's message about the end of the world as we know it? I'm gonna pull out my notes.
Mine is similar to what I said last week, which is like all of these like application points, because he dumps all this stuff that you're like, okay, now what do I do with all of this
Yeah.
information? And so whenever he's like, okay, let's take a step, let's do an application point, and then he keeps going. It just like helps me kind of read like, oh, okay, this is what I'm supposed to do with this
Yeah.
information. And I think it was the second one that he did. Was God never moves on from his people even after they've blown it.
Yeah.
Because there's so many times when I'm like, well, dang, I just like completely messed that up.
Yeah.
Or like, what's going on? This is terrible. Like, I don't, like, what did I do?
Yeah.
To which then I'm like, oh, yeah. Like, he's still there. He's not gonna leave me.
Nope.
But like that thing in the middle of like just this heavy message was like, oh, thanks.
Yeah,
Little reminder. Thanks.
that's awesome.
Yeah, it was just a like a kind of pretty heavy message, but like there was so much hope sprinkled throughout that it kind of just like didn't let me seep into like severe anxiety.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was I really appreciated that, and it was just
Yeah.
I don't know. Talking about the end times is a little weird, but it's good.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going to experience it
Yeah,
at
I mean-
some point, whether we're on Earth during it. Like, we're going to experience this. So, Andy,
Yeah, I think what stood out was the fact again that whenever we hear about the end times, it's always it's always doom and gloom and like it's scary. But the fact that in other books, God's telling us through His Word that Jesus will be there and He's reigning over it all. So regardless of what may or may not happen, God is still in control, and it's all according to how He's set forth. So it's like one of those things where I'm like, okay, I don't have to worry, because it's always one of those things, like you said, you're like, end times are all scary. Sure, it can be if you don't believe and follow in God. That's when
Yeah.
the end times are truly scary. So
absolutely. Yeah, after the Q&A every single Wednesday, it's obviously it's me, it's Pastor David, then Matt is over there, and he's doing all the camera switching. So we always end up having like, I don't know, like a 30-minute conversation after we finish the Q&A, going even deeper into the questions that were asked every single week. We honestly
keep
should just
it
record it.
rolling.
We should just keep
Yeah.
rolling at that point, because we go into even deeper conversations. And one of the things that we were talking about with this series is Pastor Dave has done a great job of creating this sense of urgency. Especially like me and Matt were both sharing within us, if I can imagine with other people in the church, where it's like, and it ties into his application point. What we do in this life echoes in the next. Of like, we as followers of Jesus are like, yes, we need to share the gospel, but sometimes we can get into the state of comfort to where we don't understand the urgency of doing it. Whereas like whenever you hear about the end times in its entirety, I know we're still going through it, but whenever you read about Isaiah and Ezekiel and Daniel and what Jesus said in the gospels and what Paul has said about the end times, and then culminate it with what it says in Revelation, it like helps create this internal sense of like, I don't want a single person I ever come in contact to experience what is talked about in the tribulation.
Yeah.
And I don't want their hearts to become hard to where they turn away from Jesus, even though that it's God is only giving the judgment to help them repent. So like for me, this message just added on to that fuel of there's this level of urgency that we have to constantly be living in to share the gospel of Jesus, because we know what we do in this life echoes in the next. And if somebody doesn't accept Jesus within their lifetime, then their next lifetime in hell is not going to be anything that we want anybody to experience.
True.
It's a strange thing to navigate too, because like I don't want to be pushy. Like I don't want to be like I don't want to end up being the people on the streets with the signs that are like damning people to hell. And
And I think
like
that
I get it. I understand the sentiment now, more than ever. But
and I think there's like almost like a balance that you have to make with that, because if you're in that constant state of fire and brimstone, you're going to turn people away.
Right.
It's just what it is. Like, I mean, even God talks about it in the Bible. Like, I'm knocking on the door for you to come answer and let me in. I'm not going to kick down the door and say, you have to accept me no matter what. That's why he gave us free will. He's knocking on the door. So, like, we can't go to that full extreme of standing on the sidewalk saying you're all damned to hell and you're screwed and yada yada. But we also can't live in this place of like, oh, no matter what you do, no matter what your sin is, you're all good. Like, you got to have this middle ground of sharing the gospel with a sense of urgency. So, absolutely. Is there anything else that stood out to anybody in today's message?
I mean, that's a good one too, because you're right. It's so easy to just go, I'll do it tomorrow. Oh, I missed that today. That's okay. No, it's not okay. You need to take every opportunity, whether it's an act of kindness. And then when somebody asks, why were you so nice to them? Well, Jesus was nice to me. Something that simple. Who knows the profound dropping a pebble into a pond, what those ripples could be.
Absolutely. Andy, are you still wanting to see a movie on the Book of Revelation in the end?
Of course I will. Are you kidding me? Yeah, give them all the budget, please. That'd be awesome.
It would be really
of course,
cool.
I'd be like this the whole time.
It'd be
Like
funny.
what?
They gotta start that movie obviously with the rapture.
Yep.
Just make this like the movie theater shake.
Oh,
have the
gosh.
bass so loud, make people actually
I'd
think
be
it's
like,
happening.
oh my gosh, it's happening!
See ya.
Like that one Office episode where Michael's like, it's happening! Running around, knocking stuff off people's desks.
Alrighty, so one of Dave's points was that one of his application points was that when Jesus rules, restoration happens. So where have you seen restoration happen in your life because of Jesus? Because we always want to reflect on the things that God has done in our lives to celebrate those, but also to encourage others who may be in that same in their life where we were in our life. So.
I've been a depressed person. The earliest I remember is I was like 4 years old, just caught myself staring at a wall for like an hour. Just like not really understanding it, but it's a chemical imbalance that I was born with that I got through family. But like, and that hasn't gone away. But like, it's so much better. Like the joy I experience now, knowing that none of it was pointless and it never will be pointless. And, I'm just so grateful because like, it's almost exciting when I get in those bouts now, even though they suck. That is, I forgot the question already, but oh wait, yes, it restored like part of this like childlike joy and wonder that I've been missing for so long.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's great. I think I see it more in like relationships as I get older. You know, people that I was friends with and like when I was younger, we may run into each other later and like certain things that bother, we may have had some like friction or something. And it's like, really, what's the point of all this stuff? there's no need to hang on to those things, and really that letting go of stuff just lets everything just kind of go away, because it really doesn't matter
Absolutely.
in the long run. And as we mentioned, what we do in life echoes later. And I think the more you can let go of things here, because that's all earthly stuff,
Right.
the more you can let go of things while you're here on the planet, that's just less that you even have to even go over with God later, you know, because we're going to be held accountable for what we've done.
Right.
And I'd rather be the guy that when I go up there, it's like, hey, good job for not holding on to stuff needlessly. Because I as much as I'm going to have stuff brought up and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember I did that. I guarantee God's also going to tell you things that you did great. And I would hopefully, that's one of those things where it's like, good job not holding on to stuff needlessly, because it can just cause unnecessary strife and anger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like two things.
Follow that one, Elizabeth.
I'm gonna try. I feel
You're gonna
like two
succeed.
things kind of popped in my head. One of them, my family, and I know a bunch of other people went through some very serious church hurt years ago before this church, and navigating that, me not really knowing the whole story of everything that happened, but then just being confused as to why it was so painful for everyone, because I was like 12 or 13,
you're
so
kid.
I was very shielded from it. But like navigating that, as in like why are people like so upset about this, to then watching my family go through it, and my parents especially, because like obviously they knew what happened, they like lived through it very personally firsthand, watching them try to navigate that, and have to come at it from this is not God, this is not Jesus, this is people from a church hurting us type of a thing. So figuring that out was very weird, and now I'm kind of like learning the story. It's like a weird feeling of like, okay, we were in so much pain, but then Jesus was like, hey, but here's this other church that's going to heal so many things for like your family. And so like that has been like this like crazy like, okay, breath of fresh air type of thing.
Yeah, that's
to
awesome.
where I mean, there's so many things that I'm like, oh, my life would be so different if we were like still there. Like, I wouldn't know any of you. Like, what? That's so weird. Like, there's so many things like that I'm like, oh, that's weird.
Yeah.
And the other thing is I feel like this is kind of happening in my life right now, because I have been going through and dealing with a lot of things mentally that have then affected me physically. And it's just taking a step back from the things that have hurt me because they felt comfortable has been very hard to figure out. And focusing on myself is so uncomfortable for me because I want to make sure everything else is fine. Everyone else is fine. I'll be okay if everything else is okay.
Right.
And so, like, asking for help is so
Very hard.
and talking about it is so hard because I'm like, I don't want to be like a burden on them. Like they have their own thing going on. I can help them. I'll deal with it later.
Yeah.
It's fine. It's fine. But as I'm trying to navigate this more with Jesus and not by myself, it's like you kind of have to.
Right.
Yeah.
You have to let people help you.
Yeah.
And so I'm trying to like remember that this is happening in my life right now, and that it's not just like everything's falling apart. Like, you know, like it's just it's weird to like see this question and be like, okay, this is happening like literally in your life right now.
Yeah.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's weird.
For sure. For me, long story short, I lived a good portion of my middle school and early high school life as like this. I viewed myself as a living, breathing, walking mistake because of what had been said to me by somebody that I really cared about. And I remember whenever I fully like surrendered my life to Jesus and allowed him to reign within my heart, and I started doing the studies and hearing other people tell me like, no, this is what your identity is in Jesus, I stopped living as this living, breathing, walking mistake and started living in the freedom and the hope and the peace and the joy and the fruits of the Spirit and who God called me to be in my day-to-day life, which in turn is why I'm here today. I was able to find what my identity is in Jesus and who he says that I am. So that restoration for me has been life-changing. So, no, thank you guys for sharing what Jesus has done in your life. I am having some iPad issues, so Anthony, if you can click over to our next question, that would be fantastic. What feelings do you have when you read this? God never moves on from his people even after they've blown it. Wow, Elizabeth, this is the second week in a row that the point that you shared that stood out to you is literally one of the questions. Like, it's kind of crazy. Yeah, so what feelings do you have when you read this? And then we'll answer that second question after.
I mean, I'll start because
Yeah.
it was my thing.
Yeah, then we go back.
I don't know. I felt so much peace from like when Dave said that. I was like, okay, and especially just with everything going on, it's just so much peace and hope. Like, okay, Elizabeth, like, you're fine. Pick up and start, like, try again. Like, you're fine. Like, you haven't blown it. Like, well, I mean, this is even after they've blown it, but, like, you haven't completely blown it because God's there.
Yep.
So,
Actually, Matt, since you got to leave soon, do you want to answer that?
Yeah. The first thought that came to mind was like, oh, dope.
Sweet. Thanks, God. Thanks, Jesus.
You're the homie. Yeah. I mean, for real though, like, yeah. I mean, that's in a nutshell, like very, very condensed, but
it's
like,
dope.
it is dope.
In case you don't know what dope means, it means like that's really awesome. Like I absolutely love to see that.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Because like, I mean, I could rattle off all the bad things that I've ever done, but like,
Sure.
he's still here. He still cares.
Yeah.
Still loves me, which crazy. It's just dope.
you're not dead.
I'm
so
not
he's
dead.
Not done.
I'm not
So he's not
dead.
done.
Yeah.
'Cause you're not dead.
I should be dead.
okay.
Yeah, I really liked the story of Jonah exemplified because
Yeah.
I've never thought of it that way because I've always thought of it. Yeah, the fish dumps him out and then he's there, but you're like, no, he is given this task to do. See you guys.
See you guys.
Come on,
Go
have
have
a
fun.
good week.
Yep.
Play music.
Rock everybody's
Hopefully
socks
people
off.
don't tune out now
Yep.
because the cool people
Yeah,
are gone.
people are
It's like,
gone.
oh, it's just
Oh, it's
Andy and
Andy and
Josh
Josh.
now. Oh,
But no, because you always think God asked him to go do this.
Yeah.
He said no, ran away,
Right.
gets thrown off of the boat, gets swallowed by the giant fish, and then is spit out. And like, yeah, he's back on his track. Like, no, God comes back to him and goes, hey, remember when I asked you to go do that thing?
Yep.
Now go do it. And you're like, oh, yeah. So it's one of those things where even if you might miss something, when we talked about earlier,
Yeah.
that you don't want to, there's still the chance that, hey, guess what? God is going to give me the ability to do this again.
Right.
And I don't want to miss it a second time.
for sure. Yeah, for me, it's definitely like this level of hope where it's like I'm trying, as all of us who follow Jesus are, to live the best life that we possibly can through the image that he has set for us. And it's like, even when I know I mess up and it feels like I've blown it and I'm not worthy of anything, which we aren't worthy of anything, but because of God's grace and mercy,
Right.
we get these gifts. But it's like, man, I know that I've blown it, but God's still right there. God still loves me. God's still going to care for me. And the discipline that I receive for my actions is out of a place of love to help me grow like it was for Jonah. And then this last question that we can go ahead and answer real fast. How can we remember this in our day-to-day lives? For me, it's just walking with that peace of knowing that even when you mess up, because it's going to happen. We are broken people that mess up. Even after we accept Jesus, we're still going to mess up. Walking with that piece of, even when I mess up, God's still going to forgive me. God's still going to love me. God's still going to use me.
Yep.
So,
You'll know this soon, but once you have kids,
Yeah.
it's as more evident than it ever was before. Because I'm like, remember when I've asked you to clean their room 18 times? Or remember when I told you not to spill and then you spill?
Yeah.
Like, there's that moment where you're just like, oh, wait a minute. And then you have to sit down and talk to them. Like, look, it doesn't matter. I'm always going to love you. I'm not.
Yeah.
I'm never mad. It's just,
Right.
and that's from a human standpoint. I think of it that way from a godly standpoint, that he never gets mad. He never
Yeah.
loses his temper like I might.
Right.
So it's like one of those things. It's like, just think of how you feel towards your friends, family, and your kids. That's exemplified to the utmost degree from God. And it's like, okay, as long as I remember that every day, and just think of the grace that I extend to people
Yeah.
that I know, that I'm friends with, he extends to me from like a fatherly standpoint,
Yeah.
no matter what I do.
Right.
So yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Andy, thank you so much for joining me on today's post show. Shout out to Matt and Elizabeth for also joining us. I know they're upstairs playing some worship music right now. So I just want to thank you guys for joining me on this post show. If you guys have any questions at all, you can go to my3c.org to our submit a question tab. You can ask that about today's message. You can ask that about anything to do with the end times. You can ask that about anything that you read in the Bible. Right now on our Q&A that Pastor Dave and I do on Wednesday nights at 7 p.m., we are going through this little mini series on questions about the end time. So this week and a couple more weeks after that, we are going to be tackling all questions on the end time. So if you have a question that doesn't pertain to the end times, still go on there, still ask it, and we promise that one day we will get to answering that question on our Q&A. So again, if you have any questions at all, go to my3c.org, submit a question tab. You can put it there. If you want a response within 24 to 48 hours, there's a little link that you can click that will take you to our Connect card. You'll put in a little bit of information so that someone on staff can get back to you with an answer to your question. And we promise we will never, ever show your information on our midweek Q&A. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to today's post show along with today's live stream service. We hope you have a great week. We love you here at Connections, and most importantly, Jesus loves you. Bye, guys.